warm greeting to each and every one of you story lovers, storytellers, and of course, we're all story makers, aren't we? We all have our stories. Please help me welcome our first storyteller to the stage, no stranger to the stage, Clay Hurtubise.
When I was coming here today, an older guy out on the sidewalk, just a little while ago, asked me about this device on my leg. And I said, oh, that's because I have hemiparesis. And he said, what's that? And I said, that's when one half of your body doesn't work. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I said, no, don't be sorry. It's not half bad. About 10 years ago, there was a massive hurricane that struck Puerto Rico. It was devastating. I felt that I must do something, so I joined the American Red Cross. It's a mostly volunteer organization. During my tenure, I was deployed 6 times. California, North and South Carolina, Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico. The Houston, Texas DRO, Disaster Relief Operation, was memorable. A massive flood had dislocated over 10,000 people. We were set up in an upper-class neighborhood, and we were housing 300 people there. The evacuees, for some reason that we don't understand, treated the volunteers rather rudely. They'd throw things on the floor right in front of you. Every morning, the showers were smeared with feces. Rubber snakes were put on our hoods of the cars, which meant go home, you're not wanted. Violent threats were so severe, we needed police escorts to go to our car in the adjoining parking lot. Now cross over to New Mexico. My 2 weeks in New Mexico were the 2 most mentally challenging weeks of my life. When the Red Cross called me, it was as if they were trying to dissuade me. They said, this will be unlike any DRO you've been to. Typically, we have well over 100 volunteers at an event. Here, there were 6 of us to help thousands of Afghan refugees who were seeking asylum from the Taliban. They arrived by plane with just the clothes on their back. We took it from there. On the first day, I was delivering boxes of blankets to a trailer. 3 teenagers ran up to me, and they didn't speak any English. With simple sign language, they figured out where and how to stack the boxes. It was the first time any client had ever offered any help. After that, men would run up to me and say, take picture, wristband. You need help, call me. Wow. Mind blown. When we got there, it was a weird sight. You had all these people buzzing about, creating a village in the middle of the desert. They had tents 20 feet high that would hold 500 cots, smaller tents for communications, healthcare, and even a school. Some of the refugees said that the setting was eerily familiar. Desertscape with mountains surrounding us in the distance. For me, it was surreal. You're in this village, there's very little Western, not many Caucasians, almost no English spoken. The signs were bilingual. I actually felt I was in Afghanistan at times. One day, there's a new plane load, and it was just men, and they were standing out in the blazing sun. It's over 100 degrees. More than half of them don't even have shoes. And they're standing there without a single complaint. They're there to be vetted, and the line's moving tediously slow. At the front of the line's about 200 men waiting for the direction. Halfway down the line is a small boy with his dad. Their clothes are tattered. As I walked around, everybody watched me, for in their homeland, they had to be hyper-vigilant. I went into the trailer, and I found this small teddy bear, and I stuffed him under my Red Cross vest. And then I had to walk past those 200 men again, and all this quiet talk erupted and all eyes were on me. When I got to the little boy, I scooched down. I opened my vest just a little bit so he could see the head of the bear. And I went, grrr. His eyes went big, and I swear I saw the start of a smile. So I said, grrr again. He smiled. I pointed at the bear and then at him. He responded by pointing at the bear and then at himself. And I nodded yes. He gently reached in and took the bear. He hugged it with both arms across his tiny little chest, tears of joy flowing down his face. I was a basket case. I had tears flowing down my face. I had to walk past those 200 men again. Now, these men had seen outrageous atrocities. There wasn't a dry eye amongst them. It's a moment I shall never forget. The Taliban had outlawed games. Playing chess was a punishable offense. So I went to Walmart and I bought out their supply of chess, checkers, and playing cards, and I grabbed a few Frisbees. I went back to the village, and these boys had never seen a Frisbee, and I was told they wouldn't know what to do with it. Well, it only took a few minutes, and they had a good game going. I went over to the medical tent, and I'm taking notes on a clipboard. Now remember, there's a whole lot of young men and boys there who have lost their father. I had about a dozen 8 to 12-year-olds surrounding me, literally. They all wanted to see my Red Cross badge. So each one of them, in turn, would pick it up, look at it, and in this picture I have blonde hair and no hat. They would look at it, look at me quizzically, remove my hat, laugh, and then put my hat back on. 12 times. Then one of them studied my badge, and he says something to the group. And he looks at me and he says, Clay. And then they all had to say it, one at a time, Clay, Clay, Clay. I wanted to adopt them all. And when I went to move, I put the clipboard under my arm to free both hands. They worked back then. And there's 2 boys per hand holding my hands. They're holding onto my vest, my pants, whatever they could. It was amazing. A young woman was walking by, and I asked if any of those were hers. And she pointed at 2 and said, those 2. And I said, oh, they're sweet, and you're beautiful. And she blushed, said thank you, and went on her way. I was told Afghan men don't talk to women like that. I said, I'm from Arizona. My interactions with the refugees didn't go unnoticed. A colonel came up to me and said that his superior wanted to know if I'd be willing to talk about the Red Cross in front of a group of 500 men in one of these tents. So I said, okay. Now, opening that door, I was full of trepidation because I'm expecting to see Texas like 10 times over. I opened the door and I am shocked. They had asked for mops and brooms. If a cot wasn't occupied, it was made up military style. There wasn't a shred of paper on the floor. It was quiet. So I give my talk, then I welcome them to the USA, and I said, I hope your lives improve. And they gave me this wild standing ovation. Then I said, due to the generosity of the local community, and it was a small town, I was able to go to Walmart and spend $500 on chess, checkers, playing cards, and other things. The anticipation was palpable. I appointed one man to do the distribution. But before that, I said very loudly, these are to be shared. Do you understand? And I got this wicked loud, yes! After that, I went to the Air Force had set up this play field for the youngsters using artificial turf. And I had acquired a couple volleyball sets. And I had one opened up in front of me, and there's just a gazillion parts to this thing. And I have this folder, It was like 12 pages long on how to put a volleyball set together. Well, the little kids came up and literally clambered all over me. One was on my back with his arms around my neck. They were holding on my arms, my legs, whatever. One was sitting right in front of me. I literally couldn't move. The kid in front of me, in front of the others, just starts flipping through the manual. And it had pictures kind of like IKEA. And then he says something to the group. And all at once, they jump off of me, grab a part, and they had that thing set up within minutes. It was amazing. Well, on my last day, I had to return some stuff to the American Red Cross warehouse. As I was approaching it, an airman came up to me and said, they have a special medal in the Air Force that is passed from airman to airman for going above and beyond the call of duty. They're not for civilians. He said that the group of airmen that I'd been working with for 2 weeks had met the previous night and wanted me to have one of these medals. I was honored. I felt I'm just doing my job. But these kids, men and women who had to deal with the Taliban on a daily basis, they deserve a medal. So when I went to leave, I stopped at the gate, and these guys have a tough job. They're in this tiny little brick building with no AC. They work long hours. The building's in the sun, and all the people coming in are very impatient. So I handed over the rest of my bottled water and snacks, and then I thanked them for their hospitality and their professionalism. And then I took a right-hand turn and left the best 2 weeks of my life behind me. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you, Clay. Here's a little bit about Clay. He was born on a potato farm in Maine, but he didn't sprout until he moved out west. So these are his words. Clay is a retired pharmacist. He's written 12 books. He survived avalanches, a 60-foot climbing fall, 2 traumatic brain injuries, and a stroke. Apparently, life keeps trying to edit him out, but the manuscript refuses to cooperate. A few things, I asked different questions, and I asked what his most irrational fear is, and his is that the aliens won't take him with them. The biggest misconception people have about him is, I went driving once and didn't get in an accident. He doesn't drive now, so you don't have to worry about being on the road with him. Early bird or an owl? He's an owl. He's a night owl, right. Beach or mountains? No, Clay has to have it all. He wants to be the beach at the base of a mountain. So thank you very much, Clay.